Are you challenging your fear foods and eating disorder recovery or supporting a loved one that is challenging their fear foods through their eating disorder recovery? Let's face it, if you're challenging fear foods, that can feel quite like placing a plate of spiders in front of you and saying, dig in. Challenging fear foods can be one of the most anxiety provoking parts of eating disorder recovery. So, how can we help to support our loved ones and reducing some of that anxiety as they're going through this very long and difficult journey? My name is Sheena, and I'm a registered dietitian specializing in the care of persons with eating disorders. So, the first thing we're going to do before we dig into exactly how to challenge these fear foods is distinguish between what is a safe food and what is a fear food. So, in eating disorder world, a safe food is often a food that can be consumed in essentially any quantity at any time, and the person with the eating disorder might feel relatively safe about that food. Common safe foods might include things like certain types of fruit or vegetables. Whereas on the flip side, a fear food is anything that person with an eating disorder has created extensive rules around. So, for example, they're only allowed to have it on certain occasions, only allowed to have it in certain quantities, or that food is completely off limits and cannot be kept in the home at all. When it comes to fear foods, there is no rhyme or reason as to why certain foods become fear foods, whereas others don't. It is often heavily influenced by both media, healthcare infrastructures, and even school systems. However, what the eating disorder does is it takes common messages from diet culture and kind of sets these on fire, amplifies these messages, creates these fear foods. Having a long list of fear foods in your eating disorder recovery will prolong that recovery and potentially even lead to relapse. So we want to get rid of these fear foods as early as possible and challenge these fear foods as often as possible in the early stages of our eating disorder recovery for best success. So how do we do that? We're going to talk today about creating a fear food hierarchy chart. This is one really effective tool in challenging fear foods while minimizing anxiety and guilt around food. So the way that we're going to want to do this is we're going to want to create a chart with levels on a scale of 1 to 100. We're really going to want to dig in deep as to the details of those fear foods and why these foods are triggering for us. So when we have an eating disorder, we often just think of foods as good foods or bad foods, but it is much more complex than that. And when we're challenging these foods, it's really helpful to know why we have certain beliefs about certain foods. The purpose of this chart is to bring back the foods that we have enjoyed at some point in our lives. So we're going to start at the lowest levels of that chart, level 5, level 10 on that fear foods chart. And these might be those safe foods, so things like vegetables, etc., that might make you feel comfortable when you're eating those foods. Then we're going to progress into the lower level foods that might cause a little bit more anxiety than your safe foods, but aren't going to skyrocket that anxiety. It's going to be debilitating. A slice of toast might be a 20, but a bowl of macaroni and cheese might be a 65. And we're really going to want to dig into the reasons why which food is which. So in that example I just provided, a slice of toast might be at a 20 because it is a small quantity. When that food is finished, it's finished, and we don't have the urgency to binge on a slice of toast. Whereas a 65, that plate bowl of macaroni and cheese, might be higher because it is a larger volume and we have the capacity to go back for seconds. So we really want to dig into all of the reasons why each food is at each level on that fear foods hierarchy chart. Write them down. Another really creative strategy when using a fear food hierarchy chart is I like to ask my patients to identify a color that they associate with each food. Very strangely, this actually really helps to enlighten us a lot onto what our relationship with that food is like. So, for example, macaroni and cheese might be a purple. That individual might deeply fear things like a slice of cake, and that food might be a red on that chart. There's three things that you're going to want to explore on the chart. Where is each food that you haven't enjoyed on the past on that chart in relation to other foods that you have once enjoyed? Which number out of 1 to 100 is that food on the chart? Number two, why is that food where it is at on the chart? Is there a specific macronutrient that you're trying to avoid? Is it the urgency to binge on that food, the fear of keeping it in the house? Number three, what color is that food? This gives us a lot of information about those fear foods when we're really going to start digging in and challenging those fear foods. When you begin to dig in and challenge the fear foods, try to challenge each fear food 2 to 3 times per week. We only want to challenge one fear food at a time so that we are minimizing anxiety while maximizing that progress in our eating disorder recovery. We want to do this with meal support. So have the support of a professional or a loved one that you trust while you're having these fear foods, so that way you're able to rely on them for emotional support. We're going to want to work our way up that fear food list slowly. So you're going to want to begin with those foods that just feel a little bit triggering. So maybe at the 20 to 25 mark, and slowly work your way up to that 100 level mark. I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you like this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend.